This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
Broadcasting live from the Capital OTB studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Good morning and welcome to Racing Across America on this Saturday morning, a lousy Saturday morning here in the Capital District. Cold and rain and downstate as well. Belmont has already canceled for today. I pulled up Dave Grenig's Twitter feed. The Bold Ruler is going to be rescheduled for Friday. The two turf stakes will be brought back on the November 4th Aqueduct card. So, unfortunately, weather continuing to affect New York racing with Belmont canceling. I think not only a lot of rain, I think there was a lot of wind as well as part of this storm. So that probably played into it. But Belmont canceled for today. But other great racing action. We'll talk about some of that on the show this morning, happening at other venues. On the sulky side of things, we'll be joined by Ken Weingartner in a while from the USTA down at Pocono Downs this evening. I think it kicks off at about 5:30. The Breeders' Crown card, kind of the sulky version of the Breeders' Cup. A lot of nice races on the card this evening at Pocono Downs, so we'll get Ken's take on some of those. But with the pre-entries being drawn for the Breeders' Cup, I thought we'd have a little Breeders' Cup conversation as well. Who better to reach out to than Jeremy Plonk from HorsePlayerNow.com, but also we'll weave into the conversation last day at Keeneland. You can find Jeremy's picks for the Keeneland card at the Keeneland website. He's been doing that all meet long. Jeremy, good morning.
Good morning, Seth. And like the weather in New York and Kentucky, it's been wet as well. So we were off the turf and sloppy yesterday at Keeneland. It's still mucky and yucky, and they have not made an official announcement yet, but I would say we're probably strongly leaning towards off the turf at Keeneland this afternoon. Yeah,
you and I were kind of plotting what races we'd look at besides the feature before we went on the air, and keeping away from turf is probably the way to go on days like this. So we'll give some opinions, however, on some of the races on the card. Before we do that, I mentioned HorsePlayerNow.com, and we'll talk Breeders' Cup in a few minutes for folks who maybe want to swing by HorsePlayer Now and pick up some Breeders' Cup thoughts this week. What's coming up on HorsePlayerNow.com with regards to the Breeders' Cup?
Well, our Buzz report that highlights the 25 biggest days on the racing calendar gets a double shot this week, of course, with Friday and Saturday action. Our entire team of 8 handicappers, myself, Brian Nadeau, Bob Newmeyer, Caton Bradar, a whole cast of characters from around the country, Terry Terrell out in California. We came up, put our horses together, and put our Breeders' Cup report together for you. If you sign up and pre-order the Breeders' Cup before Monday, we will give you a free copy of our Buzz report for December the 1st for the big Naira Mile Day card. So you get a little extra freebie there if you sign up. It's a one-day purchase for both days, just one file to download. We'll put you on an email list, send it out to you when the product is ready. Product will be for sale on Wednesday afternoon for Friday and Saturday.
And getting back to Keeneland, it's the last day of the meet. You've been handicapping there throughout the meet, available on their website, but you've also had the nice podcast down there as well. Last day of podcast today as well?
Yeah, Caton Bradar and I do a live podcast from 12 to 12:30 every day. You can pick it up on the Keeneland website or follow @Keeneland on Twitter. If you go to the Keeneland website, go to the live racing page, and it's linked in there. If you catch it on Twitter, @Keeneland is the handle where you can just play it straight out of Twitter.
And as it is the last day, I just pulled up Equibase because I've been following this for the last few days. The jockey battle kind of interesting because in the lead right now, Tyler Gaffalione in the lead at Keeneland by 1 over Julien Leparoux. Jose Ortiz behind by 3. It's 13 for Gaffalione, 12 for Leparoux, 10 for Jose Ortiz. But it should be a ding-dong battle, at least on the top end, between Gaffalione and Leparoux. And who knows if Jose Ortiz gets a couple early, but it should be a fun last day as far as the jockey battle.
Yeah, and if the last few days are any indication, Tyler, I think, has won the nightcap 2 or 3 days this week already. So he's finishing with a flurry at the end of the day. So it may literally come down to the last race. I'll tell you a jockey who's just on the brink of that top 3 is Edgar Morales, apprentice who's really had a good meet at Keeneland. He has kind of burst on the scene. He had a couple long shot winners early in the meet. And just like these short meets go, when a guy picks up a little bit of attention, the momentum carries, and they have a big meet. This kid's riding long shot after long shot throughout the meet, so Edgar Morales has been a good bet at Keeneland. I'll be curious to see if that carries over to Churchill to the November meet when they shift gears there Sunday.
Yeah, he's tied for 4th with Ricardo Santana, and just as we're talking, I was pulling up the trainer side of things, and on the trainer side of things, Todd Pletcher on top. And somebody mentioned yesterday, Pletcher, it was Brian Nadeau. We were doing the handicappers report, and as we were handicapping, he mentioned the Pletcher horse, and he said Pletcher has brought some horses to Keeneland, and the right horses, because he's winning at a 47% rate down there. 17 starters, 8 wins. Mike Maker just behind with 7. Asmussen with 6. So that should be kind of fun over the last set of races this afternoon as well.
Yeah, and, Todd had an 8-6 lead coming into the week and had no starters Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. So he's kind of been in the clubhouse, and I was curious because, they didn't enter for Saturday until Wednesday. So I was like, he's got nothing in here. If he wants to win the title at all, he's going to have to run a couple on Saturday perhaps to hold this lead all week. He's got 2 in today in the 4th and 5th races, but one of those races, the 4th, could come off the turf, and we'll see if he stays in the race. Eddie Keneally's kind of hanging in the mix there. Maker got 1 yesterday to close in. As for Maker's dance card today, looking at the alphabetical entries, Maker's only got 2, the 4th and the 7th race. So he's kind of in the same boat there, what he's going to do. See who leaves their horse in the 4th after it comes off the turf, and you'll probably figure out which guy really wants to win the title.
I was going to say, that's an interesting part. A lot of times there are these sidebar stories to handicapping. It's the last day and you're chasing. So the race comes off the turf and you see Pletcher and Maker leave their horses in. I think you have to kind of figure in the back of your mind, they're just rolling the dice maybe a little bit so they have a couple of horses on the last day to chase the title.
Yeah, Eddie Keneally was in the same boat. I think he's 1 behind Maker now. And 3 races came off the turf yesterday in which Keneally left his horses in. And to me, that made a statement that, that title means a little something to him. And Eddie Keneally's not a guy who typically wins meet titles, doesn't have, the same, a very good trainer, but he doesn't have the same kind of numbers to win like a long, distinguished meet. So at a short meet like Keeneland, when they were clicking for him, it's a rare chance for Eddie Keneally to be leading trainer at a prestigious meet like that. He sure took his shot yesterday. It didn't work out for him. And as for Eddie Keneally today, then, let's see what he's got. Keneally on the card today, he's got horses in races 3, 4, and 7. So he's also in that 4th race where everybody will have to see if they're going to stay. My money says Eddie Keneally stays in that 4th.
Yeah, it's going to be fun on the human side of the story down at Keeneland on closing day as well. All right, closing day stake races. The Fayette Grade 2 event, $200,000 up for grabs. The interesting horse in here, of course, is Hofburg, stepping in against Older for the first time. There was some buzz on him early in the season as a potential top 3-year-old. Hasn't quite lived up to that. Certainly the 4th in the Pennsylvania Derby was disappointing. But again, Hofburg is going to be the interesting horse in here for a lot of people. I think Leah Frick may be the one to beat off of the 3rd place finish last time in the Woodward. We're going to take a look at that right now. Number 1, Yoshida will win. Number 9, Gunavera will run 2nd. They're both lined up for the Breeders' Cup Classic next week. It's number 11, Leah Frick, who had the lead late but gets passed by those 2. That one runs 3rd. But I thought the 3rd in the Woodward, and before that the win down at Mountaineer, the win before that out of Prairie Meadows and Optional Claimer, just has this horse kind of going in the right direction for Brad Cox. I'm going to tilt for him. I think Prime Attraction is interesting coming in from Southern California because they may have had the best class of older horses this season. So for me, it's Leofric over Prime Attraction over Hofburg, and hence maybe is a little bit of a long shot play. What are your thoughts on the Fayette?
Well, we're in the same boat. I thought Prime Attraction and Leofric were the two speed horses in a race that didn't have much pace, and a race in which a lot of the major players are big-time closers. Hofburg comes from way out of it. Hence comes from either, even further out of it. Rated R superstar for Kenny McPeak. When he won the Ben Ali here in the spring, he came from 10 out of it. So a lot of the named players in here want to be, 10, 12 lengths off the pace, and there's not that much speed in here. I thought Prime Attraction may control it. Inside speed has been really good throughout most of the meet here at Keeneland under Ken Sormo. I think Prime Attraction has a good chance of going wire to wire with Leofric pressing him the whole way. And I kind of think it might be a carousel race where they run 1-2 all the way. Leofric, one thing really a feather in his cap, he's by Candy Ride, and Candy Rides usually run very well over this course at Keeneland. This horse ran a good race back in 2016 at Keeneland, had a terrible start, made up a lot of ground. They don't close going 6 furlongs often at Keeneland. This was in a mile on the 16th. So this horse closed well in the debut. So I wouldn't say that because he's 0 for 1 over the track that there's a knock there. Had a lot of trouble in that race, Leofric. So Candy Rides over the course here at Keeneland are almost a blind bet for me. They tend to run very well. I would expect Leofric to run well. 1 and 5 in there are going to be, the key plays for me. As for Hofburg, he's a lot of bluster and some ability, I don't know where the intersection is. There's definitely more smoke around him than there is true fire, but he's a pretty good horse. 3-year-olds don't win the Fayette very often. The last to do so was a horse named Blame. He wasn't too bad. And before that, it was Arch. So in the last 25 years, Blame and Arch are the only 3-year-olds to win the Fayette. And so you look at Hofburg. Should he be in this race on Saturday? No. This horse should be in the Breeders' Cup. He was one of the top 3-year-olds of the spring, third in the Belmont Stakes. If he developed, he should have been in one of the Breeders' Cup races, preferably the Classic, you would think. So this is kind of like a plan B. Well, we can't make the big one we're really looking for, so let's go ahead and take a shot in here. That's usually not good for me. I don't like that. I like horses who look like they kind of belong here. Prime Attraction, I think, belongs. They took their shot at Accelerate and West Coast. They found out they're 6-8 lengths behind that horse, so now they go where they belong instead of being thrown into a Classic where they'd be, 60, 80 to 1 and on the also eligible list and not get in anyway. They came to a good spot with a horse who's right in training. He's coming out of the Austin McGinn, the Pacific Classic. He looks like he belongs here, and that's what I kind of like.
Yeah, I fell in the same boat again with Hofburg, especially. It seems like there's like 1 or 2 of these every year. The 3-year-old who kind of shows promise early from a prominent group of connections, owners and trainers, and just get the buzz going. And you can tell they're talented, but they just never quite break through. As I say, it seems like there's 1 or 2 of those every year.
Yeah, there is, and a lot of times they come from behind horses, Seth. They're horses that make you go, wow, when this horse gets a mile and a quarter, baby, or mile and a half for the Belmont. So, look, 65, 70% of the races in the U.S. on dirt are dominated by, speed horses. That's just the hardcore reality of it. We all love a good closer, but that's what makes Zenyatta like maybe the most special horse of the last 25 years, because what she did defies all common sense, logic, and statistics. You don't win that many races in a row giving away that much early in races. You just don't close to win that many in a row. Winks is kind of the same way, with her running style. That kind of style should get you beat somewhere along the way, and it doesn't. But that kind of style also just captures the public. We love those kind of horses, but man, they just don't win that often, and obviously Hofburg is in that same boat. He could win today. We've probably mushed him into the winner's circle now. We've talked bad about him enough that he'll win by 6 today, but if he does, you're going to get, $5.80, $6. He's 9 to 5 or 2 to 1 in this race probably, and for me, nah.
Well, I had him down in the 3rd spot. I was too chicken to leave him totally out of the mix. But I think the other 2 are far more interesting to me. And you're right about that. It is often horses that come from behind, and that come from behind move is so eye-popping when it works that we do tend to maybe give them a little more juice than they deserve. All right, let's look at a couple others on the card today at Keeneland. The 8th race is an allowance, non-winners of one other than at 7 furlongs. Nice full field at 12 in here. I think you can go in a number of different directions. The 6, Amarillo, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, won the career debut and is 3-1 on the morning line. But this is a kind of a step up against a more salty group. I think you can go, as I say, in a number of directions, maybe 4 or 5 in here. As a buyer guy like myself, I see a bunch that I could tilt towards. But where are you going in the 8th?
Well, one note I want to make in here is the presence of Steve Asmussen with the 8 Extricate. Steve Asmussen, over the last 3 or 4 years at Keeneland and Fall Meets, has won 10 races closing week at Keeneland. Closing week's only a 4-day race week, and that number dwarfs anybody else. No one else has won more than 3 on closing week combined over the years since they've gone back to dirt. Asmussen saved horses for the end of this meet that are ready to run. He hasn't had many starters this week. Thursday and Saturday were the 2 days where he actually had entries on closing week. He won 2 of the 3 horses he put on the track on Thursday. I expect Asmussen to have another good day today. Extricate could be one of those. I think you definitely want to use this horse in your mix. By Medaglia d'Oro, should like the footing here at Keeneland. Ran a good third over this track last April. And so I think Extricate's a horse you definitely want to watch here in race number 8. The other one is Amarillo, the one you had mentioned already. Florent Giroux riding this son of Curlin. Curlin's run well over the track. That's a good pedigree play. Nacho Carres, of course, won with Blue Prize and the Spinster already at the meet. Had a pretty good meet. And look at the late pace figure from Brisk. I used the Brisk past performances. This horse in the debut at 7 furlongs at Churchill got a 103 late pace figure. That is absolutely massive. Think about it. First-time starter going 7's usually a distance where we're kind of struggling at the end. That tells me this horse could be any kind. I think Amarillo is going to be very up in there. And if there is anything to that, okay, can they repeat it off the big first effort, taking on winners for the first time? I wouldn't make that horse a single, but for pick 4 and pick 5 purposes, I think you go too deep in here, and I love Amarillo and Extricate in race number 8.
Yeah, and Extricate, 15-1 on the morning line, but an angle I've liked throughout this meet and at other venues as well, comes out of a race in Kentucky Downs. Now, it wasn't a stellar performance by any means, but that has just added value to some of these Kentucky Downs horses.
Absolutely, and if we get a wet track today, nothing wrong with that. You know, you've got some Lemon Drop Kid on the bottom, you've got Medaglia d'Oro on the top. There's enough versatile pedigree there that this horse will be fine back in the main, and actually has a good record on the main track. 4 for 4 in the money on the main. Maybe they just went the turf route because of the Lemon Drop Kid and thought, okay, this horse can be a long turf runner, or and was going short on the turf. So kind of mismatched. Really, I think it's one of those where you can draw a line through the last couple races, because that's really not what this horse is. Certainly not a turf sprinter, with Medaglia d'Oro out of a Lemon Drop Kid mare. So now getting back to something that may work a little bit better. And again, and the track will be wet today, I think it's a very good wet track pedigree and one to keep an eye on. And again, these patterns at Keeneland that tend to recycle themselves. Asmussen closing week is a big plus. Horses running back the second time in the meet is huge. We averaged 9 winners the last week of the meet at Keeneland who have already run at the meet. When you think about that, there's only going to be about 37 races closing week total, and you're going to get 9 winners who have already run back. That's 1 out of 4. 25% of the winners closing week at Keeneland over the years, every single year it comes out this way, are horses who have already run at the meet. We saw a couple of them win yesterday. Probably on today's card, mathematically, you're looking at probably 3 run-back winners on the program. So give a little extra push to any of those horses you see coming back on 2-3 weeks rest from earlier in the meet. They're ones to actually look for, not look against.
Yeah, I like that. All right, race number 5, maiden specials. These are 2-year-olds going 6 furlongs. Fun race in here. I put Incorrigible on top, or I put So Alive on top. It's Pletcher off a 46 workout. We talked about how well Pletcher's doing at the meet so far. I put Incorrigible underneath, however. 12-1 on the morning line. A 2-year-old sale purchase worked 21.4 prior to that sale, and I like Into Mischief as a sire of win early types. Of those that have run Tap is Our Secret, interesting to me, but I had it 6, 5, 7, and 2. Your thoughts in the 5th?
Yeah, Incorrigible is a good one because Ron Milquet won another race yesterday. He's had a really good meet. Those Into Mischief seem to run everywhere. And like you said, a good win early, and they run really well here at Keeneland. With Jack Gilligan riding, it could help your price a little bit. And when you've got some of the other names that we're looking at, Wesley Ward, Todd Pletcher in here, Brad Cox, I mean, that tells you right there, those three get bet blindly. So Incorrigible is not going to get bet at any kind of weight and could be a decent one for you to take a shot at. It certainly, like that kind of horse teed second in the exactas can be very valuable in a race like this. So Alive might be the most important horse today in terms of the jockey trainer races because you have Tyler Gaffalione riding. He's got a 1-win lead over Julien Leparoux for the leading rider title. And you've got Todd Fletcher training who has a 1-win lead over Mike Maker for the trainer's title. So they team up in here, Tyler and Fletcher, and if they get a win, it's going to be a double bump for both of those in the standings and could really make an impact. The folks in pursuit in terms of the trainer's race are kind of up against it. 4th and 7th race are going to be key to that trainer's title. Guys like Eddie Keneally, Mike Maker, they're nipping at the heels of Todd Fletcher. Steve Asmussen with a big day could pull it off, but again, he's got to kind of sweep the dance card to do it. Fletcher's in the best position because So Alive looks good on paper into the debut off those works, the pedigree, and I think So Alive's the horse. I've got him on top, but that's the one that's going to probably separate the jockey and trainer race today.
Interesting. And I also like the workout pattern. You know, Fletcher had this one down at Palm Beach Downs until we got to October and then came right up to Keeneland with the horse for the debut.
Yeah, so and Ready and Rich is another horse in that race, Seth. It's one of those kind of horses that just, you know, has been a pit in terms of not getting the victory. 5 straight second-place finishes, had a third-place finish in the debut. How many 2-year-olds this time of year have you seen making start number 7? And they're all at the maiden special weight level at good venues, you know, Churchill and Arlington and Keeneland. So Nacho Correa has a hard-working 2-year-old here, Ready and Rich. And like we mentioned earlier, these horses running back second time at the meet tend to do very well here at the end of the season. Ready and Rich ran second, beaten ahead by Limonite, who was a Steve Asmussen horse that was, I want to say something like 7-5, 6-5, was a heavy favorite in the last race on the card and came nailed him at the end. Got beat by a pretty nice horse. So Ready and Rich is one in here that if the first-timers don't have much game or they don't take to the off-track, this could be the day for Ready and Rich, and people might finally give up on him because, like we said, you know, this horse has been beaten 5 times in a row second, but now you got Cox, now you got Fletcher, now you got Wesley Ward in there. There's a lot of reasons to make this horse 5th choice, maybe 4th choice, and he's classically been going off 2-1 and getting beat by a head. Now he may be 6 or 8-1 in this race just because of the connections. Julien Leparoux trying to catch Gaffalione down 1 for the rider's title. So this 5th race is very interesting. This is going to be a real swing state kind of race in the election.
Yeah, it's going to be one to take a close look at, certainly. You mentioned Firsters by Asmussen. I'll go back to Thursday. That Boldor, the Firster from Asmussen. I used the horse on top. I was thrilled to get the 10-1 price, but I thought there was some great breeding there. But more importantly, I'm going to be interested to see what that horse does in the next start because that was a really nice performance by a 2-year-old. Just would not let the other horse go by.
No, and they had a big spread back to third. That's what I like to see. When 2 horses lay it down, you say, well, you know, I don't know, was one much better than the other. But when a third-place finisher's like 6-8 lengths behind, that tells you have 2 really good efforts. And the runner-up in there, the name escapes me, but the runner-up in there, go back and search for, if you would, Boldor, Boldor. The horse who ran second to him on Thursday, that's one to absolutely look at next time. It's probably going to be a short price, but one that you can just count on as a tap-in putt. That horse should break his maiden next time, no problem.
All right, let's shift the attention now. Again, pre-entries came out the other day. Love to get a few opinions on the upcoming Breeders' Cup, and why don't we start with the Classic while we talk and take a look at the Awesome again from September 29th out at Santa Anita. Number 6, Accelerate wins. Number 5, West Coast runs second in here. They're both slated to be back in the Breeders' Cup Classic, and Accelerate off the 3-win streak out in Southern California certainly is going to take plenty of attention next weekend. On the 3-year-old scene, looking to kind of validate, you know, once you got past Justify this year, the 3-year-old crop was a little suspect. But with Catholic Boy in here and Mendelssohn, McKinsey, the 3-year-olds have a chance to make a little noise. Discreet Lover off of that upset in the Jockey Club Gold Cup is fun. I think there'll be a little buzz for Gunavera. Mendelssohn, another 3-year-old that ran okay last time in the Jockey Club. Thunder Snow running second in there is going to be interesting. Mind Your Biscuits, I think they made the right choice for the win in the Lucas Classic, a win over the track. Why not take their shot in here? And Pavel, who you can argue that his win in the Stephen Foster might have been the best race of his career, so has proven a little something over the Churchill downstrip. Roaring Lion coming in off the nice win last weekend, Champions Day overseas, and of course Yoshida, who won the Woodward last time out. It's a fun field with a lot of nice storylines. What are some of your thoughts in the Breeders' Cup Classic?
Well, good news and bad news is the good news is it's a great betting race. The bad news is there's no superstar kind of horse that everybody is just circled the wagons and can't wait to see at the end of the day. So it's a gambler's paradise at the end of the day. But the bad news with that is you still got to have money left after 14 races on this Breeders' Cup. Between Friday and Saturday. So if the best betting race in the entire Breeders' Cup, which it just may be, is the 14th, it's going to be quite a challenge. Some of those years when, I'd be honest with you, I was just kind of a spectator in the Classic some years because it's it's either California Chrome or, or Arrogate, and there's not going to be much money to be made in there or whatever. So my plays are kind of, and I'm not a big Breeders' Cup turf person in terms of gambling because I don't have a great grasp on the Europeans. So I didn't mind, hey, I'll just be a spectator the last 2 or 3 races on the card for the most part. Maybe play a little fun money, but I wasn't kind of pressured to wait all day and make sure that my bankroll was still there. If you love this Classic as a great betting race, and you ought to, it's going to challenge you, and I would actually recommend that people get involved with their wagers early. You're probably not playing anybody too much in the straight win pool where the odds are going to fool you. You'll have the will pays for the multi-race double that'll give you an indication of where the public's going. So you're going to know who the favorites are and maybe a live horse that you didn't expect to get bet. I would bet the Classic way early. I think you run the risk of getting to that race and having less money in your account or less money in your pocket at the track than you want to play the race. And so I would say, if you were planning on spending $50 on the Breeders' Cup Classic, you might bet 30 of it early, and then that way when you get to the race, you can play your other 20. Hopefully you're not having a horrible day and you still got that on you, that sort of thing. Or proportionally, if you're a bigger bettor and it's 500, then, maybe I'd bet 300 of it ahead of time. Get the plays in that you really want to have, and then leave a little money for flexibility to kind of be agile. Okay, speed's doing better than I thought it was doing. You can always cancel a bet. So, betting early doesn't turn you away from, now I'm stuck with these tickets. I would just say, unless you have tremendous discipline, which 99 out of 100 horse players I've met don't. I mean, that's our biggest weakness, all of us. I would get in early on the Classic because it is really going to challenge you to still have money, the kind of money you need to go attack that race. It's going to be one of the best betting races we've seen in a long time because 14 quality horses. You're going to know all of them other than, say, 1 or 2. You got 1 or 2 Europeans. The rest of them are all horses you've been very familiar with at least this year, if not for 2 or 3 years. At a track that's not quirky and weird, it's Churchill Downs. We're familiar. Everything is familiar about this. And you're getting the huge field size without a standout favorite. And the favorite that will probably, go off 3-1, I'm assuming, will be Accelerate. And no one really that I know is lining up to bet Accelerate. I don't know a single person. And in the public handicapping world, I bet you're going to find 80% of the people taking a shot against Accelerate. There's just not a trust factor there. John Sadler's record in the Breeders' Cup is real.
Yeah.
Hell, we used to dog Bobby Frankel and bet against Bobby Frankel until he finally won a Breeders' Cup race. If you can bet against Bobby Frankel with confidence in the Breeders' Cup for as many years as we did, you can certainly bet against John Sadler at 3-1. Now, maybe by the time we get to the Classic, John Sadler's already won with Catalina Cruiser, and he's done some other things, and then you go, okay, well, he's got it this year. He's just got the right horses, and then you can go make the play on him. Maybe that's where you peel some of your money back, where, okay, I bet most of it, but in the event Sadler is going well, and the only reason I'm against this horse Accelerate is because of Sadler, well, that reason is now eliminated, and I can take some of that late money that I have saved up to play. If I like Gunnevera or somebody else, I can play Accelerate over Gunnevera and not be so standoffish towards the Sadler horses. Gives you that flexibility. And like I said, you can always cancel bets, but this is going to be a phenomenal betting race at this year's Classic. I wish I had a stronger opinion right now to lean in and tell you. I'm not trying to, be sneaky and sly and not tell you, who I like in the Classic. I really don't know. I kind of like Mind Your Biscuits a little bit, and I have no idea if he can run the 1.25 miles. That's certainly a question mark. It would be price dependent. What do you think? I mean, you mentioned him as a horse you like a little bit, Seth. What kind of price do you think Mind Your Biscuit would be in that 14-horse field?
That's a great question because I am not a morning line guy. I respect the people who do it. I can look up at the board and say, that's too short or too long once the betting has started. Now, what would I, if I could get maybe 6-1 or 5-1 on Mind Your Biscuits, will we get that? I don't know.
Yeah, I think you'll get that. Yeah, I think so. Because look, they have to bet Accelerate, right? I mean, he's got to get bet Song. There's no question about that. West Coast and McKenzie have to get bet for Baffert. I mean, he's won 3 of the last 4 classics and ran 2nd and 3rd last year when he got beat by Gunrunner. And both of those horses have name recognition.
McKenzie's going to take action, I think, too.
Yeah, right, exactly. So both the West Coast and McKenzie, I mean, so you're at Mind Your Biscuits can be no better than 4th choice. And 4th choice in a 14-horse field with those others taking money, he's got to be, he's got to be in that 6, 8, 10 area, I would think. Look, I'm not going to make a win bet. I can tell you that. I mean, I can find easier. Look, if you like that horse and you say, "Wow, what an overlay at 8-1, 10-1," I have a pretty confident feel that by next Wednesday on the NYRA circuit, you're going to find another 8-1 shot that looks just as likely to win. I mean, this is going to be a tough race to win, and 8-1 still pays $18, whether it's the Breeders' Cup Classic or somewhere else. I mean, the value obviously is going to be in the exotic. So if you like Mind Your Biscuits, I mean, you're playing them in exactas with other horses and saying, wow, now I'm getting, Mind Your Biscuits and another horse I like, and I'm getting 140 for the exacta. Now I feel like I found something different that I can't get on any other day of the year except here in the Breeders' Cup. And so if you maybe bet the race in the next 5 minutes, if the horses were on the track, maybe I would play Mind Your Biscuits and play them in some exactas over some of the other horses that I turn out to like. I haven't really studied the Classic a whole lot for pace yet, how it would set up, things like that. Post positions won't mean anything at 1.25 miles with 14 horses. Absolutely irrelevant there. I don't see. The only post positions, I was talking about this with Vic the other day, the only post position race at all that I care about would be the 2-year-old races going a mile. Other than that, Breeders' Cup Mile, the biggest mistake people make when it comes to the Breeders' Cup Mile on turf is they all complain about the 12, 13, 14, those kind of posts when they're drawn. Go back and look at the charts. Those horses are in it every year. Yeah. You may think there's a disadvantage to it, but there might be something to it in, look, I'll give away a little ground loss in order to stay out of trouble, and it works. 12, 13, 14 is in the mix in the Breeders' Cup Mile on turf all the time. The 2-year-olds I would be worried about. I don't think the 2-year-olds have enough quality about them. They're not 6 perfections out of the 14 hole. A 2-year-old out of the 12, 13, 14 would certainly worry me in those grass races. But other than that, I don't think the posts are going to matter on the draw.
Just got a minute or so left, but I wanted to get a thought on the Breeders' Cup turf. While we talk, we're going to go back and look at the ARC, the incredible Enable wins. And I think she beats a horse that is, a potential superstar on her own, Sea of Class, who makes a nice late run to make it kind of interesting. And again, talked with Brian Edo earlier on the Handicappers Report, and we were hitting on this race a little bit in Enable. And he said, given her talent and kind of a once-in-a-lifetime type of a performer, maybe she's a free square. And I said, you know what? On Big Show this week, I said to Steve, they were aiming for the ARC, and maybe there's a reason there has been no ARC winner to come back and repeat in the turf, because I think these horses do aim for the ARC, and then the Breeders' Cup turf becomes a little bit of an afterthought. And I think that was certainly the case with Enable. So I'm not sure I'd make her a free square. What's your take on Enable? And again, the fact that no ARC winner has won the Breeders' Cup turf.
Yeah, I mean, the trend is absolutely true. This one's more lightly rated than most of the others, with just the 2 starts this year. So if someone wanted to make an argument saying, well, commonsensically, this one would kind of, defer that a little bit, I wouldn't argue with that either. As somebody who likes to play the trends, I also like to try to put reasons behind them. And like you said, a long campaign ending in the ARC can be a reason why you've got nothing left for the Breeders' Cup. But this horse had a short campaign. So if someone's going to do it, this would probably be the one, Enable. But my strategy in the Breeders' Cup turf over the years is to take a European, but not the one everybody's talking about. I think we all get bought and sold on the storylines a lot with these Europeans. It's always the other Euro who wins. It's always the horse you're not thinking about. I picked Talismanic last year to win, and a lot of people patted me on the back on what a great pick. And I'm like, I know nothing about the Europeans. All I know was I wasn't taking the one everybody else was going to take because, it's a short price on horses you don't know. We just know blindly at 1.5 miles they're better than the U.S. horses, and I think that'll be true this year because the American turfers aren't that good. So I would look for another European. I mean, that's how I'll handicap it. But if you're playing pick 4s and pick 5s and you're playing multi-race wagers through the Breeders' Cup turf, if you don't use Enable, I think you really, you're dancing with danger, and you don't want to do that. But if you want to pick against the horse, who's to say there's not another, talismanic, dangerous mid, some horse that nobody's really thinking about from Europe, but it's their day, and they pull it off.
Yeah, you got to use her. I like to play the picks and use those kind of horses to move forward if they do win. And that's not unusual that a horse like that can. She's a superstar. But if you do beat them, if you go 2 or 3 deep and you get the horse that beats that one, then the thing can blow up a little bit. So it's fun. It's going to be, I think, a really fun 2 days of racing, obviously, with some great opportunities. There always are. And Jeremy, appreciated the conversation this morning. As always, not only Breeders' Cup, but a little Keeneland on closing day. And again, folks can swing by horseplayernow.com this week for more Breeders' Cup thoughts.
Well, I appreciate it, Seth, and keep up the good work that you do, and good luck at Keeneland today, everybody.
Thanks a lot. Jeremy Blanc, horseplayernow.com. We'll take a break. When we come back, Ken Weingartner. We'll talk a little Breeders' Crown tonight at Pocono Downs. Stay tuned.
Pick, bet, and cheer on live racing from Woodbine and Mohawk Park. Thoroughbred and harness action. The wagers are just the beginning. Watch award-winning broadcasts covering both breeds, incredible battles contested over the most unique grass course in North America. Experience the full fields with over 130 thoroughbred and 160 live harness days. Get access to free handicapping material and join the ranks of Woodbine and Mohawk Park players from all over the globe. For more information, visit woodbine.com.
Forever Unbridled has won the Breeders' Cup Distance. Talismanic is the winner. Good Magic's gonna win his first race, and Good Runner's on top of the world. He wins the Breeders' Cup Classic over Collective, then came West Coast, followed by More Story. Arrowgate was coming late, but too late.
Visit Rivers Casino and Resort, the Capital Region's only destination for live table game action and the hottest new slots paying out millions. And they're off. Horse betting is now at Rivers Casino and Resort with Capital off-track betting terminals and live tellers located just off the gaming floor at Van Slicks. Get in on all the action at Rivers Casino and Resort.
Welcome back to Racing Across America on this Saturday morning. Saturday evening means Breeders' Crown down at Pocono Downs. So I thought we'd reach out to our friend Ken Weingartner from the USTA. Ken, good morning.
Good morning, Seth.
And for folks who maybe are a little more focused on the thoroughbred side than the sulky side, I have it right if I use the analogy Breeders' Crown is the sulky version of the Breeders' Cup, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. We have 12 races tonight. Every division, 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, older horses, trotters and pacers, everybody going on the same night, and it's a fantastic event.
Yeah, looking forward to it. It'll kick off at about 5:30 down at Pocono Downs and winds up, and I wanted to start with one of the highlights, winds up race 14 tonight, the Breeders' Crown Open Pace, and there are a couple of horses in here worth noting, and I went to the USTA website yesterday, and certainly if you look at the top 10 by rating this season, plenty of those in action tonight. Lazarus N and McWicked are in this Breeders' Crown Pace. We're going to go back and take a look at Yonkers from October 13th. A couple of weeks ago, number 2, McWicked, is going to be the winner of that race. A 150 and change performance for McWicked. Lazarus N was scheduled to go in that race but wound up sick, so hasn't been seen in a few weeks. But McWicked coming in off of this win, Lazarus N back in the field tonight. They're 5-2 and 3-1 on the morning line. Kind of looks like the race goes through them. What do you see in the Breeders' Crown Pace tonight?
Yeah, I agree with that. It definitely goes through them. I was looking at this race beforehand and trying to find somebody else to come up with the kind of tout here as a long shot, and I really couldn't justify anybody else. I think McWicked has been so good this year. Age 7, he was a Dan Patch Award winner at age 3. dealt with some breathing and throat issues. Finally has put that stuff behind him and just had a great year. And then the two-time New Zealand Horse of the Year, Lazarus, comes over, and they've developed quite a little rivalry. And they've put together some great races, and I expect nothing less tonight. You know, the only concern, as you said, Lazarus was scratched sick last time out. Jimmy Tapter said seems to be going in the right direction. He expects him to be ready to go tonight. So that would be great, and see another great battle between these two.
Yeah, looking forward to that one. Again, that will round out the card, race number 14. Race number 12, kind of fun, 3-year-olds pacing in the 12th race. And for this one, I pulled up a race at Pocono Downs just a week ago. We're going to watch the number 3 Dorsoduro Hanover win. That one leaves from the rail tonight. The number 1 post position, 3-1 on the morning line. And off of this win over the track, seems to be in pretty good shape with that cozy post position. But there are a couple others in here that are interesting. Think Big, Dream Big with the early speed is intriguing to me. If that one from the 4 post can get out and maybe get a lead early, might be as I say, intriguing to see if they can reel that one in late. But it does look, again, off of the race we just saw, Dorsoduro Hanover looks like to be in a pretty good spot from the 1 hole tonight. What do you think in the pace?
Well, once again, I hate to sound like a broken record, but I'll agree with you on that one, too. Dorsoduro Hanover was very sharp in his elimination last week. Actually, was in the same elimination with Think Big, Dream Big, and Think Big, Dream Big came at him top of the stretch, and he was able to hold him off, put him away, and win in 50 and change, and looked very good doing it. I'd say he's definitely well-deserving of being the favorite. Think Big, Dream Big, though, certainly has a nice chance in here. I would not rule him out. And I guess, Schnitzel do something. Won his elimination last week. It's kind of intriguing. He hasn't been his best during the summer, but trainer Dylan Davis said he started rounding into form, and his last 2 or 3 starts really helped them make the decision to enter the Breeders' Crown. He was second in last year's final. So maybe a horse that's rounding into form and will offer some value. He's also starting for post 5, which at Pocono is a very nice starting position.
Yeah, tonight 12-1 on the morning line. Won that race last time at 39-1. So as you say, comes in good form, but might add a little bit of value. Let's go back to race number 9 on the card tonight. It is the Breeders' Cup Open Trot. For this one, we're going to take a look at Cruzado della Noche, and we talked to you the morning of the International, and I'm going to take a look at that Yonkers International, and Cruzado della Noche will be the number 6 horse in here. Don't forget that this race a little bit different in that it was a 1.25 miles, but does get it done pretty nicely. Now, subsequently came over to Pocono and ran 3rd last time. But I think if you go back to this race, this is a horse that will certainly take a lot of action tonight. But I think there are a couple of different ways you can go potentially in the Breeders' Crown Trot. What are your thoughts?
Well, definitely. Cruzado della Noche, very good in the International Trot. We kind of overlooked him, went off 30-1, and he had raced in the U.S. at 2 and 3, was a stakes winner over in Europe, raced very well. Marcus Melander, the trainer last week after his elimination, was not concerned about his 3rd-place performance, felt that he will be better this week. He likes to race without shoes, and that'll be the plan for tonight. Now, it is going to rain. The track's probably going to be sloppy. I'm not sure how that'll factor into their decision, but he said he is much better without shoes, as a lot of these trotters are. Looking elsewhere in this one, I kind of like Guardian Angel. This is a horse that's really had some bad luck this year, some bad posts, some traffic troubles. And starting in post 3, Matt Kakaley, this is one of the tracks he drives at regularly. I kind of like him in this spot. I wouldn't rule him out. And then you have Marion Marauder, who kind of is stuck in a difficult position because he's going to be starting from post 9, but certainly we know former Trotter of the Year, he's certainly got the class to get the job done. And on the inside of him, Homicide Hunter, we talked about him a couple weeks ago, fastest trotting mile in history. He's in post 5 with Pocono's leading driver, George Napolitano Jr. So I think this is kind of a wide-open event.
I agree. It's a lot of fun. Marion Marauder, when we talked a few weeks ago about the International Trot, was a horse I liked. But coming out of that, we said I was doing the handicapping show that afternoon, so watched the race as it was being run and then went back and looked at the PPs. I think in the future, I'm going to key on those foreign horses, mainly because they've all been the distance or more than that 1.25 miles. And I think that certainly benefited the performers a couple of weeks ago in that International.
Yeah, it seems to do. I mean, it seems to be that way, and they're used to that style of racing because as we talk heading into that race, it's not the typical North American style of race where people kind of line up single file and maybe there's some movement on the backstretch. These horses are used to getting parked out and racing extra distance throughout their careers, so they have a little bit of an edge that way.
Tonight, Breeders' Crown Night at Pocono. Any other horses or storylines we may want to key on?
Well, I think there's a couple other races here to keep an eye on for sure. A 3-year-old Billy Trot. Probably the last time this year that we're going to see Atlanta, the Hambletonian champion, Manchego, the Hambletonian Oaks champion, Phaetosif, who has beaten both Atlanta and Manchego this season, and world record holder Plunge Blue Chip, all in the same race. And this one shapes up, to be a really good race. Atlanta has the post advantage, starting from post 3, 5-2 morning line favorite. She won her elimination handily, as did Plunge Blue Chip. But this race could go a lot of different ways. And Atlanta was able to get out to a cozy lead in her elimination. It's not likely that will happen tonight, and we'll see how that plays out. Also to note, Phaetosif, usually driven by trainer Tron Smedshammer. George Brennan gets the drive, and George is known, he's called the Minister of Speed, known for his aggressiveness. And, Tron trying to shake things up a little bit with Phaetosif. So that's something to keep an eye on there. And then the 2-year-old filly Trot, undefeated, 6-for-6, Woodside Charm. Keep an eye on this horse. She was the talk of the eliminations last Friday among the 2-year-olds. Verlin Yoder owns her, trains her, drives her from Indiana. This is a nice story for the so-called, little guy getting the dream horse, and she looks every bit, the part of a champion with her performances this year. She has just dominated, so it'll be interesting to see, here in a field of the best, how this will play out with her.
Verlin owning, driving, and training. 6-for-6, almost $250,000 in the bank for Woodside Charm. That's the 5th race tonight. Atlanta is in race number 11. And Ken, you and I were talking before we went on the air. Certainly bettors will want to pay attention to Pocono Downs tonight in the Breeders' Crown because reduced takeout tonight. We like that.
Yes, 15% takeout on all wagers across the board tonight. So it's almost 11 o'clock, so people have plenty of time to get the PPs and start studying because this is a great value for the bettors. And, an opportunity you don't get too often to get 15% across the board on every race.
Yeah, very good. Pocono Downs tonight, Breeders' Crown. Ken, as always, appreciate the conversation. Wish everybody on the harness side good luck tonight on your big night, and we'll talk again.
Thank you, Seth. Thanks for having me.
Ken Weingartner from the USTA, again tonight, Pocono Downs, Breeders' Crown. It'll kick off at about 5:30. Lots of great action with all the big names from the harness side of the game. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, I pulled up some replays, just some horses maybe of interest with some storylines and whatnot coming up in the Breeders' Cup next week. So we'll do a little Breeders' Cup preview right after this. Stay tuned.
Dirty windows? Don't do it yourself. Call Clean Image, your window cleaning professionals, and enhance the look of your business or home without the worry. Clean Image pledges nothing less than 100% customer satisfaction. It's guaranteed. Homes, offices, bed and breakfast, vacation homes, and more. Clean Image has cleaned them all. Carpet and floor cleaning, pressure washing, and janitorial services are also available. Call today, 446-1397. That's 446-1397. Online at clean-image.net.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Whoops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
Welcome back to Racing Across America on this Saturday morning. Again, a soggy Saturday morning here in the Capital District, and the same downstate. They have canceled Belmont for today, according to a Dave Grenning tweet. The Bold Ruler will be run on Friday. The 2 turf stakes will come up at Aqueduct on November 4th. So, again, canceled racing down at Belmont for this Saturday afternoon. All right, let's take a look at some of the Breeders' Cup potential storylines, as it were. Friday's going to be all juvenile races, and one of the Friday races will be the Juvenile Fillies Turf. Pulled this one up so we can watch Newspaper of Record at Belmont in the Miss Grillo. Number 6 is Newspaper of Record. Win number 2 in start number 2. The maiden breaker to start the career was a similarly impressive performance up at Saratoga, but boy, just kind of runs away with ease from this field. She's now 2 for 2, both by over 6-length victories. And if you're looking for a free square on the 2 days, to me, she is one that kind of stands out. But I also pull this up because it'll be interesting. If she wins this race on Friday, Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies Turf, depending on what happens in the Juvenile Fillies on the dirt, certainly dirt performers always have an edge in the Eclipse Awards over these turf kind of horses. But it would be interesting to see how the 2-year-old filly Eclipse shook out with another nice performance, another nice daylight performance by Newspaper of Record. Certainly she would be incredibly impressive in 3 starts if she gets it done on Friday in similar fashion. But to me, just looking at the rest of the field, and you know, there's some Europeans in here that certainly are a little bit unknown as far as what they may be able to do. But boy, Newspaper of Record in the first 2 just looked so phenomenal that La Palosa is maybe interesting to me, having been a European, come over middle of September, came over and ran in the Natalma up at Woodbine and won that. So La Palosa maybe is an interesting kind of competitor. But Newspaper of Record, again, off the first 2 career starts, certainly has been impressive. We'll see if that continues on Friday. On the 2-year-old boys' side, the Breeders' Cup Juvenile a little bit later on Friday afternoon wanted to pull up Game Winner. This is the American Pharoah, September 29th at Santa Anita. Game Winner, the number 4 horse. And I just point this one out because it's a Bob Baffert trainee, 3 for 3 in the career. This was the 3rd win in the 3rd career start. This was the 2nd Grade 1 win. So with a win Friday at the Breeders' Cup, this horse would be 4 for 4, would clearly have an Eclipse Award sewn up on the 2-year-old side of things with 3 Grade 1s. That's a pretty good record for a 2-year-old in year 2018. But more importantly, I wonder if we wouldn't be looking, I don't wonder, I know we would be looking at the Kentucky Derby favorite. And over the years, it's been kind of tough for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile winner to win the Kentucky Derby, but it seems like for the past few years, the horses on the Derby trail that start to attract more and more attention are the West Coast runners. The 3-year-old scene on the West Coast the past few years has been very potent. And so we would know in early November whether that would be the case again this year if Game Winner gets it done. And given what we've seen so far, it's just kind of a question mark of if the form will translate from Southern California to Churchill Downs. But Game Winner certainly off the first 3 starts for Bob Baffert, looking very, very potent and very good. All right, wanted to also pull up Catalina Cruiser, and Catalina Cruiser will go in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. Just want to show this one because it was earlier today on the Handicappers Report when we talked to Brian Addo, said maybe one of the more impressive horses so far this year. This is a really lightly raced horse so far. A 4-year-old with only 4 career starts. We're going to take a look at the Pat O'Brien from the end of August, August 25th. Catalina Cruiser, the number 1 horse, running away at 1-5 from a field of 4. And again, start number 4, win number 4. Now, a maiden special and optional claimer, the Grade 2 San Diego, that was at 1 1/16, and then this 7-furlong Grade 2 Pat O'Brien. So only 4 starts, couple of graded stakes wins, no Grade 1s, however. And again, won the San Diego at 1 1/16, won the Pat O'Brien at 7 furlongs, so they kind of split the difference, and they're going to try the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. But again, being lightly raced, and you have horses in here like Awesome Slew, Bravazzo, Forenzi Fire, City of Light potentially, Limousine Liberal, Promises Fulfilled is going to be interesting in this race as well. Seeking the Soul, 7 Trumpets for our friends at West Point. This is a nice, salty field. And so it's going to be interesting to see if Catalina Cruiser can step into a little more potent competition, because only faced 3 in the Pat O'Brien, only faced 4 others in the San Diego. The waters, I think, get deeper here, but this is a horse that is kind of signaling an awful lot of talent. So that one's going to be an interesting horse to keep our eyes on Breeders' Cup weekend as well. Going to take now a look at the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf, and we're going to take a look at 4-Star Crook. The Chad Brown trainee, Michael Dubb and Company owned horse. 4-Star Crook is going to be the number 7 horse in here, and gets it done by a chart margin of 2 lengths. Again, this is the Flower Bowl at Belmont on October 7th. Prior to that, a close-up second in the Beverly D behind stablemate Sister Charlie, and prior to that, won the New York at Belmont back in June. 3 wins, 2 seconds, and 5 starts this year. Almost $1 million in earnings. Well, over 900,000, 911,000. But again, gets it done here over On the Moon again. And I bring this one up because it's another opportunity, this time at the Breeders' Cup next Saturday, for the New York bred program to kind of stand out in an incredible year with Diversify and Mind Your Biscuits. It really has been a phenomenal year for the New York breds. They had a great Saratoga meeting, did the New York breds, not only on track at Saratoga, but down the street, that New York bred sale this year. 4 or 5 days after the big traditional sale, the New York bred sale was very good. But 4-Star Crook, being a New York bred, has another chance to put a feather in the cap of that New York bred program this year. So she'll be another one to keep our eyes on. Just wanted to also go to the Breeders' Cup Sprint, and I wanted to show Imperial Hint, who is going to be the number 6 horse here in the Vosburg. And the consensus was the best horse. Watch Javier Castellano gear the horse down, though. I said it the day after the race. Just kind of right here, you can tell. Okay, I'm just we're gonna trot to the finish line, and the Mr. Crow kind of makes up ground. But look, he's just kind of galloping out, never in doubt. So Imperial Hint, the Grade 1 Vosburg for the last 1/8 of a mile, certainly inside the last 16th and 100 yards. Just getting completely geared down, making it kind of a laughable win against 6 clearly outclassed opponents. So now comes in with 4 wins in 5 starts this year, 12 wins in 18 career starts. A laugher in the Vosburg, a laugher in the Vanderbilt up at Saratoga. But my question is, going into the Breeders' Cup, do you want a laugher, or do you want something that's really going to have your horse on its toes? This horse is completely talented, so clearly you have to pay very strict attention. And again, potential here is for Promises Fulfilled to potentially be in here. Friends at West Point, also 7 Trumpets. And again, we'll know, and you can look up, I have a link on Equidaily to the pre-entries with horses listed by preference if you want to know exactly the preference of some of these horses. But of course, next week when the final entries are taken, we'll know where the horses will be deciding one way or the other. Whitmore, interesting in that race as well. But certainly off the performances so far this year, particularly that 108 in the Vanderbilt 2-back, Imperial Hint, very, very interesting in the sprint. But again, do you want a geared down performance like that? Does that put your horse in the optimal position to move forward. Maybe he's just that good, though, that he's going to still run away and hide potentially. Finally, wanted to take a look at the Classic, and I talked a little bit about this with Jeremy Plonk. I think with Catholic Boy and McKenzie and to some extent Mendelssohn, the 3-year-olds have a chance to kind of validate themselves after a year where Justify was phenomenal. But the rest of the 3-year-old class they never kind of stepped forward to display anything beyond Justify that kind of stood out. There weren't any real. There's the second and third horses in the division who are also very, very talented. We weren't really seeing that, but certainly McKenzie, having a ding and sitting out much of the year, and then the comeback in the Pennsylvania Derby has a chance to say, you know what, there were some other good 3-year-olds, and this is the Pennsylvania Derby. McKenzie, the number 8 horse here, and again, this was a comeback after a layoff since a win in the San Felipe on March 10th. This was September 22nd. So, a nice comeback effort for McKenzie, who was certainly highly rated by Bob Baffert before going to the sidelines. Mendelssohn, another 3-year-old who I've never been super high on, but comes out of a second in the Travers and a third in the Jockey Club Gold Cup. And again, Catholic Boy, very interesting off the win in the Travers after having kind of gone back and forth, dirt and turf. This is one you just don't see that often. Won the Grade 1 Travers last time and won the Grade 1 Belmont Derby on the turf just before that. So comes in with that Travers win. They're now training up to the Breeders' Cup. Catholic Boy, again, adds some interest. And I suppose, given what we've seen in the past couple of starts, as I say, has somebody defined themselves as the second or third? Maybe Catholic Boy with the, a Grade 1 on turf and on dirt has defined himself as the talented number 2 in the division. But again, it would further validate the rest of the 3-year-old crop, or some in the 3-year-old crop, if we saw one of the 3-year-olds get a win potentially in the Breeders' Cup Classic or run very, very well. We'll see how it shakes out, though. Again, some of the storylines potentially next Friday and Saturday. And, of course, next Thursday night, Breeders' Cup Seminar. Do want to invite you down to the Clubhouse Racebook for the annual Breeders' Cup Seminar. 7 o'clock next Thursday night. Mike Callahan, Sully Crotty, and myself will go through the Breeders' Cup cards and kind of give out some ideas there. So that should be a lot of fun. By then, the entries will be officially pulled, and we'll know how things are going to shake out. Just love to see you come down here. 711 Central Avenue in Albany next Thursday at 7 o'clock here at the Racebook. Also want to remind you, October 29th, we kick off the Bet 200, Get 200 promotion, October 29th through November 4th. So Breeders' Cup week. If you want to sign up for a brand new Capital Bets account, do it during that week and take advantage of Bet 200, Get 200 for a brand new Capital OTB Bets account. And don't forget to reserve your seat here at the clubhouse for the Breeders' Cup. Swing on down and make a reservation to join us here at the Clubhouse Racebook for Breeders' Cup weekend. Love to see you here. It's always a lot of fun with a big crowd watching the big races. Today there's an online win-a-bet contest, Road to the Breeders' Cup, $100 online win-a-bet. More information at the website. And as always, tomorrow, Sunday, NFL Sunday, here at the Clubhouse Racebook. Watch all the football action and enjoy all the racing action as well. Every Sunday here at the Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue in Albany. Want to thank our friends at Woodbine for their sponsorship. Woodbine, pick, bet, and cheer on great racing north of the border. We'll be looking at some of that Woodbine racing just about a couple hours as I'll come back on with OTB Live. Again, Belmont unfortunately canceled for today due to the weather, but we will have plenty of other racing action in our mix on this Saturday afternoon. Again, I'll be back, probably with Belmont out of the mix. It'll be closer to an hour and a half. We'll be back with OTB Live for Saturday afternoon. Had another replay lined up, but I'll save that for tomorrow because we'll be back in with Racing Across America tomorrow morning. But I wanted to show you Winks at about 2 o'clock last night. She won her 4th Cox Plate. Just an incredible story. If you don't follow international racing, certainly look up her. And again, we'll have the replay tomorrow. But 4th Cox Plate, and again, if you're not familiar, Cox Plate is one of the top races, maybe in some people's opinions, the top race down in Australia annually. She's won it now 4 times, 29 in a row, 22 grade or Group 1 races. Just phenomenal performance by Winks last night, our time down in Australia. And again, we'll have the replay tomorrow on Racing Across America. In the meantime, stay tuned. Enjoy all the races. Oh, and I've told we'll show the handicappers report because we were showing Breeders' Cup workouts earlier this morning. So handicappers report will come up right after this, and it's only a abbreviated edition because I had done, we had taped it, and I had done Belmont. There was no Belmont today, so you won't hear the Belmont portion, but you will hear the Keeneland portion of the handicappers report coming up. Stay tuned for that. All the racing action this afternoon. Again, we'll be back in about an hour and a half with OTB Live. See you then.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.